In October 1962, the discovery of Soviet ballistic missiles in Cuba pushed the US and Soviet Union to the edge of global nuclear exchange. By late October, the US military operated at DEFCON 3. This protocol enforced a rigid, mechanical matrix of heightened force readiness, demanding that pilots be seated in armed aircraft on active runway alert. American military planners held a specific strategic assumption about how the conflict would begin. They expected any massive Soviet nuclear first strike would be preceded by an infiltration of Spetsnaz, Soviet special forces units tasked with covert operations and the sabotage of domestic command bases. This sabotage-first theory forced local security forces at major military installations into a state of hypervigilance, bypassing standard policing protocols. The sabotage doctrine required security personnel to view every unauthorized perimeter breach as the potential opening phase of an intercontinental nuclear strike. This doctrine altered military psychology. Security forces were primed to interpret any localized anomaly as an active strategic nuclear threat. The defense of North American airspace relied on the Semi-Automatic Ground Environment, or SAGE. SAGE was the world's first large-scale integrated computer network, engineered to coordinate the response of thousands of sensors and weapon systems. The network operated on a centralized hub-and-spoke command structure. The Duluth Air Defense Sector served as the primary regional node, with lines radiating outward to peripheral installations. This architecture meant any threat processed at Duluth would automatically propagate instant alert signals to all connected bases. These peripheral dots included dispersal bases, such as Volk Field in Wisconsin. Dispersal bases were utilized to scatter interceptor squadrons across a wide geographic area, ensuring a single Soviet strike could not wipe out the region's entire defensive capability. However, the advanced processing power of the SAGE hubs stood in stark contrast to the rudimentary infrastructure of these dispersal sites, which often relied heavily on basic landline telephone relays rather than redundant radio systems. Most critically, Volk Field lacked a permanent control tower. The architecture combined automated continent-wide alert propagation with isolated, towerless dispersal bases. This structural blind spot eliminated an ability for local commanders to verbally verify incoming alarms with their pilots. The primary weapon stationed at these dispersal bases was the Convair F-106A Delta Dart. It was an aircraft engineered exclusively for taking off quickly, climbing to high altitudes at supersonic speeds, and intercepting bomber formations. The aircraft integrated directly with SAGE through the MA-1 fire control system. The MA-1 was an avionics package that allowed ground-based computers to physically fly the plane from takeoff all the way to the point of weapon release. For the October crisis, these interceptors were loaded with the AR-2 Genie. This was an unguided air-to-air rocket tipped with a 1.5 kiloton W-25 nuclear warhead. Military planners chose an unguided nuclear weapon to counter Soviet electronic jamming. Lacking a guidance system, the rocket was completely immune to evasion tactics. It was designed to fire into the middle of a bomber formation and detonate, creating a rapidly expanding thermal and electromagnetic pulse, an EMP, that would disable every target within a quarter-mile radius. Operating under DEFCON 3, pilots at Volk Field maintained a grueling runway alert. They slept in their flight suits in the base dispensary, with their aircraft engines connected to ground power units, ready to launch in under 15 minutes. During the crisis, command strictly enforced a no-drills policy to prevent complacency. Pilots were briefed that any alarm sounding at the base was a real-world combat scenario. The combination of computerized flight control, live nuclear payloads, and the absolute elimination of drills removed all psychological hesitation. The system was biased entirely toward immediate execution. At approximately midnight on October 25th, the defensive network was triggered at the outer perimeter fence of the Duluth Sector Direction Center. A hyper-vigilant sentry, already primed for Spetsnaz saboteurs, spotted a shadowy figure attempting to scale the base's security fence.
The sentry executed the operational doctrine perfectly. He fired his weapon at the figure and immediately triggered the base's sabotage alarm. Seconds later, the intruder was revealed to be a black bear. It dropped to all fours and fled into the woods unharmed, prompting Duluth to quickly stand down their local security alert. While human operators cleared the local threat, the automated electronic signal had already escaped into the regional network, heading for Volk Field. This demonstrates interactive complexity. a theoretical concept describing highly sensitive systems where isolated anomalies interact in unpredictable ways. At Volk Field, the signal encountered a fatal hardware failure. During a hurried communication upgrade for the crisis, an installer had committed a physical wiring error inside the base's alarm system. The green signal line arriving from Duluth crossed over a terminal to power the red scramble circuit. These circuits demanded massive operational divergence. The sabotage alarm required guards to man the perimeter. The scramble klaxon demanded interceptors launch immediately with live nuclear weapons. The klaxon blared inside the Volk Field dispensary. Waking to the alarm they had been conditioned to respond to without hesitation, the pilots fully believed a Soviet nuclear attack had commenced. A tightly coupled architecture allowed a localized biological anomaly to bypass human judgment entirely. A single crossed wire seamlessly initiated an automated nuclear launch sequence. The F-106 pilots sprinted to the tarmac. Engines screamed as the aircraft throttled up and rapidly began taxiing toward the runway at Volk Field. The lack of a control tower resulted in a severe communication blackout. Operating under standard radio silence protocols to prevent Soviet detection, there was no centralized way to broadcast an abort code to the cockpits. Simultaneously, the Volk Field base commander grew suspicious of the klaxon without accompanying teletype warnings. Utilizing a standard landline telephone, he called Duluth directly and discovered the bear incident. The commander had verification of the false alarm, but the interceptors were already rolling toward takeoff and were completely unreachable by radio. With seconds remaining, the commander ordered a highly dangerous, improvised solution to physically sever the automated launch sequence. An officer drove a vehicle directly into the path of the lead F-106. Using the vehicle as a physical barricade, the officer forced the pilot to cut his engines. In a system perfectly optimized for speed and stripped of communicative latency, a physical object blocking the runway was the only safety mechanism preventing a nuclear sortie. The true danger of the Volk Field scramble lay in a massive secondary risk overlapping above, the Strategic Air Command's Operation Chrome Dome. Under Chrome Dome, fully armed B-52 bombers were continuously airborne, flying classified, constantly changing routes over the Arctic to ensure survivability. In a catastrophic intercommand failure, the Air Defense Command pilots launching from Volk Field had not been provided the locations of these friendly SAC bombers. If launched, F-106 radars would blindly lock on to returning B-52s, misidentifying their massive signatures as Soviet intruders. Firing a Genie rocket meant destroying a friendly bomber, cascading its hydrogen payload, and causing SAC to misinterpret the loss as a Soviet first strike. This sequence of events exemplifies normal accident theory. Developed by sociologist Scott Sagan, the framework argues that in systems characterized by tight coupling and high complexity, catastrophic failures are a mathematical certainty. These incidents suggest that near misses are inherent features of complex technological architectures. From the 1956 Suez Crisis swans to the 1961 Thule communications failure, the history of the nuclear age is defined by these structural vulnerabilities. As modern militaries compress decision windows with automated cyber defenses and hypersonic weapons, the Volk Field bear remains a stark warning. In pursuing absolute readiness, the greatest existential threat is often the unintended consequence of technological complexity.